All right. Good afternoon, recruits. Thank you for joining today's Teams Tip session. By now, you all should have finished consuming your rationed MREs. So make sure to put them back in your pack and you'll be fueled and ready for the assignment today. Um, you won't need any more rations. We're going to be here to help fuel your knowledge for technology using Microsoft products at UT Dallas. So please note that we went ahead and we muted cameras and we muted microphones for attendees so that you can focus on listening to today's session. We will leave that chat open so that if you have questions throughout the session today, you're able to post those in the chat and we will be responding to those. So I know that all of you know you've been called into active duty today to go over and enlist in Microsoft List. This is a new app to UTD, I would say. Not everybody uses it, but we have invited some of our special op forces to share with you how they're using this product and how they use this technology tool to enhance the offerings that they have to the university. So before we start our training, I'm going to go ahead and, Judy, I see your note here that you don't have any sound. If you'll just make sure your volume is turned up. It might be your machine. I don't know if anyone else is having that issue. But before we start today's session, I wanted to just go over a couple of things. Our special forces today are Sergeant Sherwood. He's going to be leading us on all of the basics behind List and telling us from the very beginning how to use them, how to deploy them, and make sure that they're actively used within your world. Then we have Corporal Chow joining us. She's from Microsoft 365 team, and she's going to be talking to you a little bit about how her assignment on Communication Patrol and the Microsoft 365 team, how she uses List to manage all of those communications with us and make sure that everything stays on task. So she's continued this mission successfully and is one of our student workers. So we're very excited to have her here with us today. So as we're moving forward, I do just want to mention if you're looking to connect with us or recruit on any other future opportunities, if you have not already, please follow our account. We do have a LinkedIn account, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But right now we're actively recruiting for our LinkedIn to just grow that professional presence. And we know if you're joining us today, then you're interested in learning these technologies and enhancing your skills. And we want to continue that conversation with you on a regular basis. So I've got a QR code on the slide. Feel free to scan that. I'll get that in the, I'll post that in the chat here in just a second as well, in case you'd like to follow us in our future pursuits and endeavors. We always get the question, is today's session going to be recorded? And it absolutely is. We are constantly under surveillance here. So if you have to pause or step away for a moment, note that we will be sending out a communication with a recording of today's session, and it will be posted also on our YouTube. So I posted the link on the slide as well as a QR code. So if there's something that you missed, if there's something that needs a little additional assistance, you can always rewatch any of our sessions. They're all located on YouTube and available there. There's a plethora of information from List to Excel to Outlook to PowerPoint, whatever Microsoft product that you're wanting to get better at, we've got a recording out there for you. So please check it out. So without any further ado, I call your attention, please, to Sergeant Sherwood. He has been deployed on this project of using List for a number of months and is deeply entrenched in this technology surrounding List. So he is going to be our personal guide in sharing today's information. Welcome.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Amanda, and so excited to be back here on Teams Tips. I feel like I took a little hiatus from training in Teams Tips, but I'm excited to be back and talking about one of the things that I use, probably one of the most heavily used outside of Teams itself, Microsoft apps that I use in my day-to-day work is Microsoft Lists, and it's kind of one of those best-kept secrets of Microsoft 365, and we're excited to kind of pull the curtain back on it a little bit for everybody today and talk about what lists are and how they can help you with your day-to-day work as well. So with that, I'm going to dive right into it. So I want to start with talking about what a list is. So a list is really a collaborative table with lots and lots of extra features. So you'll notice when we start getting into this that a list, there'll be different fields that you can choose from. You'll be able to customize a number of fields, but it's really just a table at the end of the day of data that you can just do a lot of powerful things with. Like I mentioned, it's fully customizable to your needs. So whether you want to display it in a list format with lists, or if you want to display it maybe in a grid format, maybe you have photos, we'll show some examples using that as well. It's very extensible and you're able to do a lot with it. To that end, you're also able to integrate Microsoft Lists with Microsoft Power Automate to do even more powerful things. We won't be covering Power Automate today. However, I know that our M365 team is hard at work on additional documentation and future training opportunities for Power Automate as well. But a list does integrate with that and allows you to be able to build on top of what you've already built with your list. The other thing that list brings to you is collaboration. We talked a lot about, especially when we were new to Teams. I remember, talking with folks about co-authoring in Excel and co-authoring in Word, and we've kind of become used to a lot of those things in the last 2 years and just becoming more collaborative. Gone are the days, hopefully for most of you, gone are the days of that shared Excel document on a department drive that gets locked when one person is using it. But List builds on top of that and allows you to also collaborate in real time, update records in real time, and be able to work together as a team. So where is a list? So that was my next question I'm going to answer. So where do I find Microsoft Lists? Well, you find it in your office.com list of applications. You'll see it here. It's got these different colored lines here. It looks like a little mini list. When you click on that, it's going to take you to this landing page. So there isn't unfortunately a direct link to List that we can put in the chat, but trust me, you'll go to office.com and you'll see it pop up right there. Now, lists can be stored in 2 different places, just like documents can. As many of you probably know, you can store a document inside of your Microsoft Team channel, and that allows everybody in the team to be able to access and edit that document. Lists are the same way. You can create them and tie them to an existing team, and they'll be able to everyone in your team will automatically have access to that. Alternatively, let's say you want to use lists for yourself. Maybe you have a small group of people that use a group chat instead of using a team as a whole. You can also create lists inside of your OneDrive, and so they'll be under My Lists and allow you to share it with a smaller group of people or a specific group of people if you need to do that as well. Just keep in mind that personal lists that are not tied to a team are tied to you. So that means that if you ever leave the university, the rest of your team won't be able to access that list. So for most collaborative things, we would recommend tying it to a Microsoft Teams. But all of those locations, or whether it's tied to a team or it's tied to you personally, are all going to be visible at the lists interface that you're seeing here on my screen right now. You'll notice that there's several here that have names of teams, and then if you look down towards, well, maybe not right now, but you'll see there are some here that I can show that I'll have linked into my personal OneDrive. So I have those just for me. So where else can you access lists? So obviously you can access them here in a web browser. You also can access them from the Lists mobile app. This is helpful if maybe something that you're using Lists for requires you to be on the go, or even just to quickly access information that's stored in your list. So that's available on the App Store for iOS or in the Play Store for Android devices as well. And then finally, it wouldn't be Teams Tips without some Teams integration. So you can, of course, add a list to a Microsoft Teams channel. So if you go to that top part and you've got all your tabs, your conversations, your files, you can add your list or multiple lists up there for easy access inside of the Teams console. So now, let's move on and talk about how we create a list. There are a couple of options when we go to create lists. So I'm going to start here and just show you what this interface looks like here. So you'll see at the very top, you can create a blank list. We're actually going to do this in a little bit. We'll show you a live demo of how to create a list just from the lists interface. You also can create a list from Excel. So if you have the data, maybe you've been using a shared Excel sheet and you want to try lists out, you can actually upload your Excel sheet to Microsoft Lists and it will convert it into a list that you're then able to use. or from an existing list. So let's say you want to make a copy of the list that you already have. Maybe you want to tinker with it a little bit without breaking your original list. You're able to copy that from this interface as well. And then finally, you've got templates. So you can kind of see some of the possibilities here when it comes to Microsoft Lists. Microsoft has these 8 templates that are available. You can start with a template and then customize it further. Or if the template just meets your needs, you're able to just be off and running and be able to track these tasks. So that's the kind of 3 main ways to create a list. I'm going to now show what one looks like. So this is going to be a really, really simple list, and I'm starting out that way on purpose. So you can see this is keeping track of responses, likely from a survey, maybe from a Microsoft form that you might have integrated into here, or maybe just responses that someone's collecting, out on the out on campus and able to enter into their list here. So you can see I've got several columns of information, whether or not this person supported whatever this was, and their name. And then you'll also see that I have the option to quickly add additional columns if I need to do that as well. I also can choose to show or hide columns. This is the concept of views. So you don't necessarily have to show every column that's in your list at all times. We'll talk about views here in a little bit, but I can quickly kind of adjust that here from my column headers as well. Then we've got filters. So if I click on one of these columns that I have here, actually I'm going to start with the support. I can click on filter by. I can say I only want to see the people that said yes. Now quickly I've got a list here of the folks that have supported whatever it is that I'm entering in here. And then same thing, I can go ahead and click on no, and I can easily see the ones that don't support it as well. There we go. Next, I'll talk about comments. So let's say you're tracking maybe work items that you might have, or maybe some basic simple ticketing here. We're not replacing a ticketing system, but this is something that could be used maybe for logging simple tasks. You have the concept of comments, just like you do inside of Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, Excel, where you can click into the individual line that you're looking for, and I can maybe see if it'll let me tag Amanda. I can even tag someone in here and say, hey, Amanda, can you take a look at this? And that's going to send Amanda a notification. Oh, it's actually even going to let me know that she doesn't have access to this and that I need to share it with her first. So we'll do that. And now she's able to go in here and respond, and we can have a conversation about this particular list item. And it also is really helpful in that it tells me there's a comment on this particular item. I can click into that and easily see that. Again, what's great about this, it's all available not only here in the web version of lists, but also on that mobile app, also inside of Microsoft Teams. So it's great for just anywhere where you're at. The next I'm going to talk about is the concept of views. So when you look at this Microsoft Lists interface, you'll see at the very top right, by default, it's going to show all items. All items is the default view for any list. As you would imagine, it shows all the items and generally all of the columns unless you've customized it further. But you'll see I have some other views created here. This is where lists really becomes more powerful than maybe a simple PowerPoint or a table inside of a Word document. I can save other views of this list. Maybe they have different columns, or maybe they have a filter applied so that I can only see those who have voted yes. So you can see that compared to my original all items, in all items I have whether or not they supported it and their name, but you'll notice in my yes view, I only show the names, and it's only showing the people that voted yes, and at the end it's even added a little counter for me to tell me how many people have voted yes. So really great way to be able to filter here. Now, there's a couple different ways to create a view, one of which is that if you make changes in here and you go in here and say save view as, it's going to give you the option to create a new name. So I'm going to say no to, so I'm going to make some changes here. Now you can see it's still keeping what I had before for my original view, but I can go to the second one here, and maybe I want to show the internal ID. It's going to assign a number to each one of these, so I can show that on here. Now you'll see if I go back to my original no, it still doesn't show that, but my no to, it's got those IDs listed there. So that's the concept of views. You also can click on edit current view. That's going to take you to more detailed settings more, where that filter is at. So you're able to filter in the view itself and say support is always only equal to no. You're able to do that again under this drop down and clicking Edit Current View. All right, so we've talked about views, we've talked about comments and maybe some filters, but let's talk about groups as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my all items view. Another really powerful thing that you can do in lists is grouping. And I know that Chow's going to talk in a little bit, and she uses this in some of her work as well, but you're actually able to, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to create a new view here. So I'm going to say all items grouped. I'm going to go edit my view. I'm going to scroll down until I get to group by. And I'm going to say I want to group by whether or not they support it. So I want to see all the no's together and all the yeses together. I'll go back up to the top and click on OK. It's going to take me back to my list here. And you'll notice now I've got these collapsible sections that are going to show me whether or not they supported whatever this is, and give me that same information. So I can at a glance see how many no's I have, how many yeses I have, and I can, that will update in real time with who I'm collaborating with as well. The last thing I'm going to talk about is formatting. Before I pass things, we stop for questions, and then I'll pass things to Chow to show her examples as well. Formatting is really, really powerful inside of lists. It allows you to make changes. Let's see, is it going to let me do it? Yeah, format this column. Make changes with conditional formatting. So if you've used Excel, you're familiar with this. That's available inside of lists as well. I'm going to go into my conditional formatting here, and let's say if the name is equal or contains, let's do contains, or, well, that's not available, that's all right, is equal to B Sherwood, then it's going to go ahead and highlight. So now you can see it's highlighting that support option there. Looks like it's not going to let me pick the support option from the rule, but you get the idea. You're able to add individual formatting for that particular column based on rules that you set. And those will apply to everybody who uses this list and the mobile view, so you're able to see that across all of the different clients and easily at a glance, see the information that you're looking for. The last thing I'll show with formatting is the gallery view. So you actually can create cards that will show. So if you don't want to see it in a in a list format, you'd rather see the cards, you can do that as well. And then again, you can save your list view so that it always shows up in that card gallery view as well. So I think lists is best explained by showing some examples. So we're going to pause to see if there are any questions, and then after that, we're going to really dive into some examples of how we've used lists here in OIT. Amanda?
Yes, the primary question was, you dropped the Power Automate bomb, and everyone was like, what is that? What does this mean? So Power Automate is a way of integrating all of these Microsoft tools and automating processes behind them. So building, if you fill out this, then it can do that. So on our Teams live events, for example, when you register using a Microsoft form, we have in Power Automate built behind a process that says when we receive a response, then we send out a calendar request to complete that process. So it is a little bit more of a robust product. There are templates available to help you build those different tools. So just know that it exists. It's Power Automate. We'll work on getting some information out and some resources out about that. But I was going to add, right before Chow begins, I just know that there's usually always the question of people want to see how they can add it to their teams, and just pulling it back into Teams Tips. So I know Brian covered this. I wanted to show it real quickly because sometimes this gets a little hidden in your Teams account. So I'm on my general teams, and this is the team that I run for my group. And on our general channel, if you go up to the little plus sign, that's where you're able to add in any additional apps. So even though it may not come standard on the side of your Teams account, you can still build things in. So I've recently searched for lists, so it's showing up here for us. So you can go ahead and click on list to get it added and save it within your channel. So you can see here now it's part of the tabs at the top. And if you have one that you've shared with your whole team, then you're able to access that existing list and add it here. So this is Chow's that she's already built and developed. So I can go ahead and click on that. It's going to take just a moment, and then it loads onto our team. So now as I jump through, I can see that, and it's duplicated here, but you can see that's how you were to add it if you didn't already have it on your team's account. But I know that's a question that we get a lot is how do I build this in so that I can also have it on my account? So I'm going to kick it over now to Corporal Chow, who's been working so diligently on getting this list developed and being able to manage all of our communications on the M365 team and have them organized in an orderly fashion. So Corporal Chow.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Joe. As Amanda mentioned, I'm a student employee of Microsoft 365 Outreach team at OIT, and my job is to write communication for OIT trainings and events. And as you may already know, we offer so many trainings, which means I have a lot of writing deadlines to keep up with. And at some point, I realized that I really needed an assistant to help me with managing my tasks. And I've been utilizing Microsoft List to help me make sure that I prioritize my writings in a good order and deliver the communications well before the deadlines. So I'm happy to show you my list, and let me put it up right now. Okay, so I actually started my list with one of the 8 templates that Brian mentioned, content scheduler, and I customize it for my job. And for my current job, I only need a simple list with 3 columns. What content do I need, when to have it ready, and the status of the task. So I usually start with sort the deadline column from older to newer to determine which writings I should prioritize. And I sometimes sort the status column, like I sometimes group the I sometimes group the task by status, um, to have an overview of all my tasks. If I scroll down, I can see those tasks I'm working on, those that I have completed, and those tasks that I need to start doing. Now I'm going to ungroup the task. Um, I can also drag and drop the column like this to change the order of my columns depending on my preferences. I can also make the column wider or narrower. I can also hide a column if I don't need it anymore. And one of my favorite feature in Microsoft List is edit in grid view. You can see it on the top left of your window. If you click on it, you can, because like with this feature, you can add a new task to a list or change any detail very easily, just like you do in Microsoft Excel. When you finish, you can click exit grid view to go back. It is very easy and intuitive. And now I want to go a bit deeper into how I customize the settings of these columns. I will go with my status column first. To customize the settings of a column, you can click on that column, go to column settings, and choose edit. When the edit column panel appears, there are places where you can edit column name, column description, and column type. You have several options for column type, and the most suitable type for my status column is choice. So I would go ahead and click choice. So as you can see, my joy list have to do, doing, pending for review, pending for info, ready to send, done. And these are actual steps in my writing process. I can choose to add a new choice to the list, rename it, rename, or change the color, or delete it when I don't need it. And I set the default value to do, so that means when I add a new task to the list, the status will be automatically automatically set to do, so that I don't have to do an extra step to put in the value. And as you can see here, there's more options for data enforcement and data validation. If you share the list with your team, I think it may be worth adding the description or more setting options such as data enforcement or data validations for better consistency and understanding among your team. When you finish, you can click Save to go back. The same goes with my deadline column. I also click on the column, go to column setting and choose Edit. The options for this column is a bit different because I choose the column type as date and time. With date and time, I have the options to include time when my tasks are time specific, and I also have an options to choose friendly format for my date and time. For example, it will show today instead of November 16 or tomorrow instead of November 17. You can also have an options to choose the default value or data enforcement and data validation as in the status column. And then I will click Save to save all the details. When you have your list ready, you can click Share to share with your team. Um, you can share, like, there are different levels of access, just like in OneDrive. You can like other people can view the list only, or they can edit the items, or they can edit the whole list. So it depends on your choice. And apart from that, I can automate my list by set the reminders for my deadlines, or create an alert when there's any change in the list. So that's all for my list. And you may not need like Microsoft List um, to keep up with a communication plans, but it is very Microsoft List is very flexible, and you can apply it for any other projects that you may have. For example, it can be assignments in class or others for your departments, or simply just your to-do to-do list every week. Microsoft is like really a tool that can help you be on track and on time with all your projects. And now I'm going to hand it back to Brian to talk more about his examples and demo. Thank you.
That was awesome, Chow. I have to tell y'all that I had not seen, look, you're getting all the applause emojis. That was wonderful. I have to say, I had not seen all of her examples before the presentation today. I had just heard about them. And so I'm so impressed, Chow, with how you've been able to use lists to manage your work. I might need to make myself one of those because I'm a paper guy. I'm a paper to-do list guy. Maybe I should upgrade to Microsoft Lists. But thank you. We want to show off a few more examples. Hopefully that was helpful. I feel like seeing examples is really the meat of how you can learn how to use something. So I'm going to show a couple of my examples that I use on a day-to-day basis. So the first one that I'm going to show you is our student employee list. So you all know that we have, hopefully you might know because you might have spoken to one of our amazing student employees at the help desk. Within our customer services area in IT, we have over 50 student employees. We're getting close to that 60 number, and that's a lot of information for us to maintain and manage. So we use lists as our primary way of doing that. You can see here we're tracking things like who their supervisor is, what role they have on our team, their graduation date, that we're able to be able to keep track of that so we know how many folks we have graduating at a given time, when they were hired, what equipment they have, all of that, their t-shirt size, all of that information we keep in this list. And Chow mentioned alerting on the list, so you can actually add rules to say, I want to know when a new person gets added to this list, or I want to know when something changes, which can be really, really helpful for someone like me who manages this list. Although a lot of other people put updated information into here, I have certain rules set up to let me know when something might have changed or been added. So a great example, you can also see I'm using some formatting here to show clearly who the different supervisors are, and highlighting specific rows based off of some criteria to show as well. But that was great for us internally. But one of the projects that we're actually currently working on, given that our students still primarily work remotely, is a directory. And so we're actually going to use lists to do this as well. This is using the gallery view inside of Microsoft Lists, as well as adding photos to those items as well. So you can see that this allows me to browse through. We don't have all the photos in here yet. That's the part we're working on. But you can see their role. You can see, we even have pronouns in here, their preferred pronouns that they can have. And we can share this list to our entire team with a view-only access so that they're able to browse through and view everyone, but only specific people are able to go in here and update things and change photos and things like that. So another example here with a directory. The other one that we have used this for is our quality reviews. So if you work in an area on campus where you're providing customer service, hopefully you're doing some level of quality assurance. If not, that's okay. I know sometimes it gets to the bottom of your priority list, but we do some quality assurance reviews at the help desk to make sure that we're providing good customer service and to make sure that we're providing feedback on a regular basis to our student employees. And we're using lists to do that. So you won't see any names here, but you will see kind of what information we're doing. There's a lot more to it than this, but you'll see we've got our date, we've got whether this was a call or a chat, our internal contact ID that's used for it, and then a score for each of these areas, as well as a contact score. What's great, well, the reason I love this example is it's showing that contact score. That's actually a calculated column. So you actually can use lists to do some math for you. If you're like me, you're no good at math. So you need Excel or lists to do the math for you, computers to do the math for you. And so this is actually calculating a percentage, and then we use this with Power Automate to actually email this feedback directly to our student employees as well. And then the last one I'll show you, and if you're new to lists and maybe you're like, I kind of want to use this for my department, but I'm not really sure where I could use it. If you have a list of bookmarks, many departments have a list of bookmarks that kind of become that tribal knowledge. Somebody exports their bookmarks when the new person joins. You're actually able to keep a list of links in a list as well. So if you have a list of links that maybe your department uses frequently or your team uses frequently that you want to store in a list, again, then it's all kept in one spot. Folks can open that up when they start their day and browse through the list. And if you get a new tool or a URL changes, as they sometimes do, you're able to adjust that just in one spot. You don't have to do it everywhere. So those are just a couple of examples. Hopefully that's helpful in seeing kind of what can be done with Microsoft Lists. And I think we'll pause there, Amanda, and see if we have any questions. And then I think we were going to create a list live here with this group.
Yes, so we are. I've got a couple of things. I wanted to circle back to Chow and just ask the question because I think that this is important to note as well. Had you had experience using Microsoft List prior to working on the M365 team? Is it something that you'd already utilized on a regular basis and organized your information that way?
Actually, I had an opportunity. Thank you for the questions. So I had an opportunity to use Microsoft List just like last month when I know about this event and I write the content for this event and I figure out like, wow, Microsoft List is a great tool that I can apply for my communication plan, because at that time I realized that I have a lot of deadlines to keep up with, and like planning it on like OneNote or on paper didn't help me anymore. So I decided that I want to move all the deadlines to Microsoft List, and it has helped me a lot since then.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
think
for the
that's
question.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, Chow, because I've just seen you use the tool, learn the tool, and be able to implement it. And I like to call attention to that because it's not something that you have to have a lot of background knowledge in or have experience doing. It's a tool that's easily adjustable to what your unique needs are. I was going to launch a quick poll, just 1 second, Brian, while you're getting ready. I know you're working on some things, but just to test your knowledge, depending on how you have your view set up, this should pop up in just a second in your center screen, or it will also appear in the chat. So this is multiple answers, so go ahead and fill it out. The question is, how can you share your list? So if you've created a list, how are you able to share it? So if you want to go ahead and check off the ways that you think that you can share it, go ahead and do that, and I'll be keeping a track here of those answers while when they're coming in. But I like to always just test knowledge to see what people are understanding with using this tool. Okay, I'm scanning that they're coming in. So a lot of people are putting to add it to your team, which I think is incredible. I think that's a great resource. As Brian mentioned earlier, if you have all of this collaborative documentation and you're keeping it to yourself and not sharing it to your team, then we're missing out. We receive those requests a lot of, oh, so-and-so left or they got a new position and now we can't access all of their things. If you share with your team, that ensures that legacy knowledge moves on and is able to stay with your entire team. A couple people said convert to Google Docs. That was not an option. That one was a trick one. But you're absolutely right. You can share it by email. You can export it to Excel. You can share with an individual and change those settings so that if you just want them to view and be able to see your list, they should be able to look at that and check it off. Or you can share it with a group. So great job, y'all. You're paying super close attention. So the next portion, Brian, we're going to create a list as I understand it. And we're I got.
Do we want to answer some questions first, Amanda, and then we can?
Yeah,
I think we've got a couple in the chat.
Yes, I'm sorry, I have to scroll up. Okay. Can you go over using list for inventory? So if you have a lot of inventory, what would you do?
Yeah, so the great thing about lists is that they're 100% customizable. So what I would suggest you start with is deciding what it is you really need to track. What is important to you? Is it who's assigned the particular device? Is it the serial number maybe of the device? Is it where it's physically located? Those types of information. Make yourself a list of what you need to track before you go in here. However, Microsoft, as you probably noticed, has an asset manager template. I went ahead and created one of those here. So this maybe gives you a starting place where you're able to work from. When you do that, you're going to be given the option to upload a photo, to enter its asset tag, all kinds of information, including a person field. So one of the most powerful fields inside of lists is the person field. It allows you to pick someone from our directory. And you'll see, just like in Outlook, it's going to search the directory, and you can put that in here as well. So this basically anything you need to be able to track. I'm not sure what your particular inventory needs are, but you can do it inside of lists, and that's where that mobile app comes in handy, right? Because if you've maybe created a checkbox of is this thing still here, you're checking to make sure all the inventory is still there. You're able to do that from the Lists mobile app as well.
Great, thank you. And another one, and you touched on it a little bit by using how it's built into the Teams directory. But just to add on to that, if you're using the list to maintain a directory, can you easily grab those email addresses? If you didn't want to mention everybody's name, like what you have in that long directory there, is there a way that you could just import those names if you already had it in Excel?
Absolutely. So both importing and exporting is super easy inside of lists. So there was a question in the chat about being able to pull the lists out or pull the email addresses out. Usually what I do when I need to do that is I just click right here and I click export to CSV or export to Excel, and I copy and paste and I go on my way. Normally net IDs show in this view. I hid those just in this presentation, but we keep those in here as well, and you're able to just copy and paste once it's in Excel there. If you're adding information, Chow talked about the grid view. You actually can copy and paste into here also. So if you go in here and you've got a bunch of data that you've copied out of Excel and it matches the same format that you've got here, you can actually copy and paste. Now, if you're doing a large number of imports, I would suggest creating a new list and importing from Excel. But if you've got several rows of information you're trying to add, you can actually copy and paste when you're in that grid edit view.
Wonderful. A couple new questions coming in. Where does the list go if the network is down? Is there another way to access it? Box has more than one way to access.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Lists is a cloud service, so there is not a way to access it offline. There is, if you have business needs around that and you're in places where maybe Wi-Fi or network is not reliable, you may want to instead use OneDrive with an Excel sheet where you can, sync offline and be able to use the Excel sheet offline.
Perfect. And then the next question was, is it FERPA and HIPAA compliant?
Yes, good question. So yes, this is part of our Microsoft 365 platform. The whole platform is FERPA and HIPAA compliant as long as it's not a third party. So this is run by Microsoft. It's just as HIPAA and FERPA compliant as putting something in a Teams channel or storing it in your OneDrive.
Yep, perfect, because we do have to log in, we do have to authenticate, we do still have Duo for using everything on office.com. All of that authentication still happens in the background to ensure that that access is the right people are accessing. So we'll do one more question because I want to leave a little bit of time, and then we can always circle back. And Kim, you may have to clarify this one. If doing it in a team, will the team names easily pull up? I think if you're adding lists to a team, I'm not sure. I might need a little more clarification on that one, Kim. But if you want to go ahead, Brian, and I'll circle back and I'll make sure I can ask that question properly so that we can get her question answered.
Yeah, and I will address, there's a question in there about limits as well before I go into that. There are limits to the number of items you can have in a list, but they are very, very, very large. I don't have them off the top of my head right now, but I know that a given view can show up to 5,000. So once you get past that, you might have to do some more filtering and stuff, but the list limits are very, very large. So, but we're going to take some time now and just show how easy it is to get started in lists. And I think, Chow kind of alluded or talked about this when she talked about how she was able to get this created and how simple it is. So we're actually we're going to live life on the edge. We're going to start with a blank list. We're not going to use one of Microsoft's templates. You can see I'm able to choose a name for it. And I think, this is in list. Maybe we'll, Amanda, put our recruit names. And I'll pick a little icon here. Let's go with this one. And I'll pick our green here. So once I get in here, I'm going to have by default a title. I'm going to go ahead and rename that to your recruit name. And I'm actually also going to use that person one. There seems to be a lot of interest in the person one. So I'll add that here and say who. Let's show photos, why not? All right, and then I'm going to add a yes/no box, and I'm going to say attended Teams tips. We'll say the default value is no. All right, so now I can go ahead and adjust. I'm going to go ahead and add a new entry. Another great part of lists is the entry field is super easy. You're not using an Excel sheet. You have this little form that you can look at. It's easy for someone to add a new entry. So Amanda, do we have any recruit names maybe we want to add in here?
Oh, I know. I didn't ask the audience. I apologize. I was answering a few questions. So audience, this is where we need your participation. Why don't you shoot us some recruit names in the chat? To go ahead and let's start filling in the blanks here. But Brian's showing you how you add in that new item over on the far left by adding the plus new. And we've got one Big Banana coming in. And let's see who else wants to have some fun. Okay, we've got Colonel Mustard coming up next. I like it. I just played Clue this weekend. Yeah, just do COL. That's what they did. Yep.
I can't.
They're just
spell.
trying to test us right now. That's what's happening. And we've got a Cowboy Christmas from Beatrice. Nice. I love our recruit names. Y'all are being very clever. Let's get a couple more. Okay, here they come. We got Uncle Eddie and T-Mock Thanksgiving is a good one. Getting ready. I can already taste the pumpkin pie. I'm so ready for that. And we've got Junior Samples. They're keeping you, we're testing your typing skills.
I'm just showing, I want to show how easy it is, so I'm going to get them all in here.
T-Mock Dallas is final answer. I think that's our last one. I haven't seen any others come in, so I think we've got a good creative list to get started here.
Yeah, so now we're able to, let's say we want to also add, or we want to show when that item was created and who created it. So we'll add those there as well.
That's perfect. I know we had a question about tracking these changes and how do you know who's making updates to it? So that's one quick way to see that reference.
Definitely. And like Chow mentioned, if you're concerned about someone editing your list, like I am, yeah, a lot of people have access to it. You can set up alerts so that anytime someone changes something, you get notified when that changes. But yeah, same thing where I
It's
can
usually
go.
me, y'all, just to
It's
clarify. It's usually me.
I didn't call anybody out, but but yeah. So in this add column, you can either choose a brand new column to add, or you can add some of those built-in ones here. We'll also go ahead and do some. Let's add. They attended Teams tips, so let's say we want to format that, and we'll make it simple. We'll just format yes and no. So that gives you that option here. Now all my yeses are going to format yes. I'm going to pick on Kim here, and I'm going to say, let's say she missed Teams tips. Now you can see it's highlighted that no as well. And so yeah, I mean, as simple as that, guys. Like it's so easy to be able to use this. You can hide fields. You can edit in that grid view, like Chow was showing earlier, where you're able to make changes kind of on the fly there, and then you're able to export it, share it with other things. Export it so that you can pull data out of it if you need to, or share it if you need others to be able to collaborate with you inside of lists. So just a really powerful platform. And so, I mean, I just love how customizable it is. You don't have to know anything about coding to be able to do this. You know, it's a very user-friendly interface that you're able to create. And Microsoft's continuing to invest in this too. So I think that's important for us to know, is that lists is something if you're a longtime SharePoint user, you probably are familiar with. Lists was available as a part of SharePoint, but now it's a standalone part of Microsoft. So they're really investing more time to making this as user-friendly as they can. So Amanda, I think with that, are we going to take some more questions?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I've got one more poll just to kind of test knowledge here. Since we've showed how to create a list. We've talked a lot about how to create them. So we're going to launch one more poll, multiple choice or multiple answers, not multiple choice, but multiple answers again. So how can you create a list? There are a couple of options for how you can do it. You can import an Excel, right? These are your option choices. Create your own. You can use a template or make Brian do it. All valid options. So let's go ahead and see what people have learned from the session today. I'm going to go ahead and submit and see what we've got here. Okay, so very, very good. Yeah, everybody is understanding that you can import. If you already have data, you can bring that in. There's no reason to have to recreate everything. You can do a data dump. You can create your own like we just did very quickly by selecting new and putting that information in and formatting it. And then what Chow used was a template that she had found, and she just customized the columns by hiding columns and putting in certain fields that she wanted to adjust. Brian, you're safe to know that not as many people are going to make you do it, so apparently that's just me. But that's great. So they're all seeing that they can do this easily and will do it on their own. All right, I'm going to jump back over to questions. Let's see, Brian. Oh, Allison. Okay. How do you close a list after you've created it? I think this is an excellent question that Lynn asked. How do you close it? So we're working on this. This is all cloud-based. Where's the save button, Ren?
Yeah, so no save button, no need to close it. I mean, literally just close your tab and move on. You can have it open in multiple tabs if you need. Maybe you're working on different views and you want to be able to see multiple things. You can do that. But yeah, no need to close it. If you're in Teams and you have it loaded in a tab, you just change that tab back to the conversation view and you're back to your normal team environment.
Perfect. Okay, I'm trying to check, but my chat is acting a little funny.
I think I'm going to try to answer Kim's question too. So if you're adding people in a column, in a list inside of a team, will the team members easily pull up? So not currently. So what's going to happen is it's going to search the whole directory. They, I believe, are working on the ability to restrict down to like a group so that it only shows the people that are in the team. But by default, it's going to work similarly to Outlook, it does have a little bit of AI in it to know maybe who you've interacted with before, so it knows maybe what Brian you're looking for or what Amanda you're looking for, but it is going to search the entire directory.
Awesome. Well, I'm waiting. I haven't seen any other. I'm going to post, let's see, maybe I'm going to launch one more, which is a newer way to poll, and I haven't gotten to use it yet. So I feel like we just have to use it just for the sake of using it. Now that you all know a little bit behind the scenes about lists and how they're used and what their purpose are, in one word, how would you describe list? I would love to get an idea as how either you think you might use it or if it's, one big word, man, somebody take a screenshot of that. I love it. In one word, after seeing this, how you would describe list. And I'm very curious because we have about our own ideas of how to use this tool. We have our own solutions to our own problems. Believe it or not, we have a lot of problems that we have to have solutions for. And so it's interesting to see how other people use it, receive this information, and are able to process this. So I'm seeing great adjectives here: flexible, smart, customizable, amazing, maybe. It's okay. That's fair. Maybe. I mean, you don't know until you're using it, until you have a use case for it. Opportunity, helpful. Those are awesome responses. Thank y'all so much for giving us a little bit of feedback as to what you're thinking about it, because I think that's really helpful for us to have an understanding of how you see this tool benefiting your area. Okay, jumping back to chat. Okay, and can you delete a list? Brian answered yes. Can you share with external members? So I think we showed quickly that share button, which is similar to using information in OneDrive, and it's just inputting that individual information out there, but you are able to share the content that you create, just like in Word or Excel. Anything that you've got backed up in OneDrive, you are able to share that out there as well to external individuals so that they can have access to that information. Let's see. Okay, I am not seeing any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and share my final slide here real quick. Move that over there. Just as we wrap up, if you have any other questions, feel free. We're getting them in. I'm pulling up this slide for just a moment, just while the questions are coming in, and we're answering those. If you have a commendation or want to report today's session to the military police, our supervisors will be notified of any displeased customers. So please feel free to send your feedback. In all seriousness, we value your opinion. We want to make technology a tool that is easily adaptable for you so that you can use it in your everyday career and to be able to enhance how you contribute to the university. So take a moment. You can scan that QR code. In just a second, I'll grab the link as well and be able to post that in the chat so that if you have any feedback for us, we always welcome it. It's helpful for us to know how to develop these sessions. Okay, Brian, I'm going to switch over and grab that link. Were there any questions that you needed to answer?
The only one that I'll mention, I answered in the chat, but I'll mention it too. So if you're the author, can someone else delete your list? This is always a hot topic in the Microsoft 365 world. So if something is a part of your team, by default, everyone's going to have edit access, which means they could delete it too. But you can change those settings. Sometimes you have to go to the advanced sharing settings to be able to make adjustments to that, but you can change that. If it's one of your personal lists and it's shared in your OneDrive, then by default, no one should be able to delete your list except for you. But again, that comes down to your individual sharing settings and how you set things up. I think that's it, Amanda.
Okay. Well, thank you all for attending today. We look forward to having you in some of our future sessions. If you have any questions or ever need to reach out to us, just remember we are here to help. Thank you.